back to another Take the Lead podcast. I am your host, Tara Chantel. I am so excited about this bag talk session we got right now. We have Dr. Louis in the building. Queen, you do it all. And I just want you to introduce yourself to the audience and let them know what you do. And don't be humble about it either.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Louis. I'm a licensed psychologist, owner of Atlanta Couple Therapy, and founder of the After I Do Academy. My work has been featured in NBC, Cosmopolitan, Wall Street Journal, Reader's Digest, and I've been to over 20 countries. I've done just over 1,000 speaking engagements on mental health and relationships. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. I am so honored to just have this experience with you today. Doctor, please talk to us about these relationships right now, because you are in the heart of Atlanta and you already know about love and hip hop reality shows. So now I feel like that is playing a huge role in how we view relationships, is just the reality aspect and the music. What have you seen so far about relationships?
Oh, wow. So I've definitely seen a lot of infidelity. I see a lot of couples that are trying to figure out how to rebuild trust after betrayal. Also, I see a lot of couples struggling with how to communicate. Sometimes it's this feeling of like, I just want you to know what I need without me having to say it. You should just read my mind and just know what makes me happy and give it to me. And for a lot of people, that's a struggle. And so I help couples have effective communication.
Wow, that is so necessary because communication is like the key to all healthy relationships overall. So, what advice can you give like relationships that are in a hard and rocky time when they don't have that communication for each other?
I think I think when you find yourself in a space where you're in a rocky time, which for a lot of us we are, like being in a pandemic, and it's all sorts of different stressors that come up, like because of the pandemic. Sometimes it's financial stress, sometimes it's stress with like, how am I supposed to do all of this? Take care of the kids and pay these bills and make sure I look like something. Like, how do I do all of it? And so I think that's the first thing, is just realizing that you don't have to. Like, you don't have to do all of it. Give yourself permission to be flawed, to be imperfect, to have struggles, and know that you can sit down, when you do find yourself feeling stressed out. Give yourself permission to rest.
Permission to rest. Yes, because being in this rat race, being on the go, just want to be constantly moving. We feel like, oh, if we're not doing something, we are behind or not being productive. But I feel like resting is productive as well.
Absolutely. Like, sometimes we could get caught up in like, well, if I just work, then I'll be productive. But it's like counterintuitive. It's actually the opposite. It's when we sit down, then we're able to focus better. Our memory is better. When we rest, like, we're able to retain more and get more done when we actually sit down, to give ourselves the space to replenish.
Come on, sit down. Sit down. Take a moment for yourself. That is so necessary. I love how you mentioned, like, you notice infidelity. Why they be cheating, sis? Why they?
I think, people cheat for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's, I feel like I'm not getting my needs met. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if you hear me. Like, I'm saying, like, I miss intimacy and I don't know if you hearing me, but just because you don't meet a need doesn't mean that the need goes away. Sometimes it's feeling disconnected. Like, I feel like we just lost our connection. I don't know when we lost it. I don't know how we lost it, but we lost it. I don't even know how to talk to you about it. So those are some of the issues that I see as making a relationship vulnerable to infidelity.
How can relationships that enter in infidelity, how can they persevere and move forward?
That's such a great question. That's such a really great question. I think the main thing is communication, like communicating about what the needs are, communicating about like, hey, I hurt you and I want to gain your trust back. What can I do to rebuild the trust? So taking ownership and responsibility, because sometimes it's this feeling of blaming the person. Well, if you wouldn't have did this, then I wouldn't have cheated, or are you gonna get over this? Like sometimes it's just this like kind of cavalier, nonchalant way of blaming the other person. And so if the person did cheat, I think the willingness to take responsibility, to be transparent, to be honest, like, hey, here's my phone. I don't have nothing to hide. Like, you can trust me. Sometimes the other person needs to see something tangible for them to start to feel trust again.
Wow, yes. It's amazing. Back in the day, like with our ancestors, they got married and they last, like they never give up on each other. But it's like we get into a relationship in this era, everybody gives up so fast.
That is so true. I think we live in this microwave society of like just give it to me fast and in a hurry. Oh, you won't give it to me? Okay, somebody else will. Like that commitment that some of our elders had to marriage, it was like on another level. You know, they didn't give up on each other. You're right. It was like, we're going to work through this thing. We're going to figure this thing out.
On another level. And I love now more than ever that our generation is like requiring and just promoting mental health, especially as you being a licensed addict, sis, about just the mind and the behavior. How can we truly heal our brain if we had damage in it?
I think seeing a psychologist, you know, if I have a heart problem, I'm going to see a cardiologist, and hopefully a good cardiologist. And it's the same with our mindset. Like, see a psychologist. Why deal with it by yourself? Why feel like I got to be superwoman, try to figure it all out by myself? No, sis. Like, you don't have to figure it out by yourself. Like, it's people like me that I'm here to support you in uncovering some of the things that you might not be aware of. Like sometimes we've gone through traumas that we don't even know was a trauma, like in our childhood, abuse, sometimes sexual abuse, and it impacts how we are in relationships. And we cannot even know it. And that's my specialty, is helping to uncover some of the areas that we might be wounded in, that are unconscious.
Mm, wow. So you named a few traumas about just sexual abuse. What other traumas are there?
Some traumas can be, I never felt loved. Like I see people who in their childhood they never felt like they were never hugged, they were never encouraged. They have a in some cases a fractured sense of self. And so then they may find themselves in a relationship looking for validation, but it's because they never felt validated in who they are. And so now I'm looking for you to validate me. I'm looking for you to tell me that I'm worthy, because deep inside myself, I don't feel worthy, or I don't feel like I'm enough. And so sometimes there's self-esteem issues, that I help people with building their sense of self.
Come on, building the sense of self. Can you dive more deeper into that process?
Absolutely. And so part of it is finding your strengths, finding the things that light you up inside, finding the areas that you feel of worth. Like say for example, I love art and I draw, and that's my thing. Or say for example, I like to sing. I like to sing. I'm not a great singer, but I like try to hit a couple notes. And so my family, they always laugh at me. They're like, "Boo, you cannot sing. Stop it. Stop it, please. You're hurting our ears." And so sometimes part of your sense of self-worth is finding just the things, the small things that you like to do, and doing them frequently and often, you know, regardless of whether somebody does it with you or you do it by yourself. Like I took a trip. I'm in Barbados right now. I live in Atlanta, but I took a trip to Barbados, and so right now I'm just looking out at the ocean. And it was a solo trip. But I know for some people it's a feeling of like, if nobody's gonna go with me, then I'm not going. But sometimes you gotta do it alone. You gotta do it scared. You gotta still just follow your dreams. Just do it.
Wow, that is so powerful when you can just truly just get up and go and enjoy your own company, because sometimes we can look in in the mirror and truly be our worst enemy. It's like we don't sleep with ourselves. Why not be our biggest cheerleaders, our best friends? I don't understand why we can be so mean to ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. Like sometimes we could beat ourselves up emotionally of like, I'm so stupid. Why I keep making this mistake? And we can like live in our mistakes instead of healing ourselves and saying, all right, I made that mistake. I learned my lesson. I'm not gonna go down that road again. And I forgive myself. Because I get to be imperfect. Like I get to make mistakes and learn new things. And it's not failure. Like I think sometimes we could get caught up in like, I made a mistake, so that makes me a failure. No, I'm learning. And that's a good thing. I learned this thing so that next time I'm gonna be more prepared next time.
Stay ready. You don't gotta get ready. Yes.
Come on, everybody. Yes.
Come on. No losses this way, only lessons. I love that. And I also love how you are just a professional. And you said before how if your back is broken, you go to a chiropractor, your mind. So why is it in the Black community we are shameful, or we feel like it's a negative thing if we seek professional help?
I think sometimes in our community, it's this thought of what happened in this house, stay in this house. Like, we'll talk about it. That's kind of like part of the culture. And sometimes like we might be more readily go to our church or go to a like spiritual guy than go see a therapist. But sometimes we need to see a therapist. And so that's what I'm all about is Black mental health. And so my practice, Atlanta Couple Therapy, I have a practice of 5 Black amazing therapists because I wanted to create a space where we could talk about mental health in our community, where we could talk about, hey, I feel sad, I feel depressed, I'm kind of anxious about this thing. They storming the White House, like they killing us out here. Like I needed to create a space where it was safe for us to talk about mental health as it relates to being Black.
Come on, being Black. Especially in America, because we are being targeted every day. Just how with the vaccines and the media putting us in fear. Can you give us some helpful tips on just truly staying peaceful, like having our peace of mind intact of being Black in America?
Sometimes I gotta turn the news off. To be honest with you, like sometimes I just gotta turn it off. And that's what I encourage for people to do to cope is you have to be mindful of how much people have access to you. And sometimes the media is a lot of propaganda where we're not seeing a lot of healthy Black images on the media. And so I would say if you find yourself talking to a person and they just are negative, 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 hang up the phone. Stop picking up the phone and talking to that person that every time you talk to this person, you feel even more sad than you did before you talked to them. Then you have to limit sometimes people's access to you. Even if it's a family member, you love your family, you want to be there for your family. But if you're not in the right mental space to take on one other thing, then sometimes that means saying, all right, I'm going to call you back. I'm busy right now. I'm not able to do that right now. I have a prior engagement. Even if that prior engagement is sitting down, having a cup of tea and taking a hot bath, do that to protect your mental health.
That is powerful. That is so powerful, because what's going on is out of our control, but all we can control is our mind and our thoughts. that can truly just affect the universe that we live in. That's amazing. And I just want to just shift gears a little bit. You also just help and guide therapists, counselors to get paid to speak. So you've been talking that talk with us just about all these facts, and I'm just like, I'm writing down, picking up the game that you dropping. Tell us about what inspired you to just help other people like this.
So what happened was I was like booking a lot of media. I was doing like a lot of press, like Madame Noir, NBC, and then therapists would inbox me and they would be like, "How'd you do that? Like, how'd you get started? Like, how did you book Wall Street Journal? How did you get this 30 city speaking engagement?" And so I would like send responses in my DMs, and then it just got to be a lot of direct messages that I was responding to. And I said, well, let me just create a space where we can have these conversations. And so then I started the group. The Facebook group is called Paid to Speak. And so now it's over 3,000 counselors and coaches and just life changers in there. But it started with just kind of those one-off conversations.
Wow. And that's when you are gifted. You just have to listen to the people around you that's seeking advice and asking questions. And hey, like, Bill still got to get paid. Let me monetize this because that's what is necessary. We all are trying to strive for more. And that is truly amazing. So, how do we have a successful speaking career, especially what's going on right now?
So some of the pivots that I've been making in my business is I've been doing more virtual summits. And so virtual summits are a way to like build more exposure and credibility. And then typically on the back end, it'll be an offer, a way that people can invest in an opportunity to be able to work with me. And so what I find is that when people get a taste of like, okay, this is what you do, then it makes it much easier for them to make a buying decision. Also, webinars are great ways to monetize your speaking. And so usually I may do like a paid webinar, maybe like $27. And so that's more of a volume model where when it's this price, then it involves like more people. So it may be $27, but then multiply that times 100, and then it just kind of makes more sense, like fiscally. Also, hospitals will book me to speak. I had a speaking engagement for a hospital, and they were like, Dr. Louis, like, I want you to speak, but I don't know if we can do this thing live with how this COVID situation is set up. And I was like, no problem. I'll set up the Zoom link. All you got to do is send it out to everybody. And so it ended up being a $3,000 speaking engagement that I was going to do in person, but with COVID, we switched it to virtual. So those are some of the ways that I'm getting booked and paid to speak right now.
Wow. Come on, Pivot. Come on, Pivot. I would love for you to talk more about just pivoting more than ever, because where the world is shifting, sometimes we wish we can go back to what is quote unquote normal, but that is not how it's going to be. So, just in the power of pivoting in all aspects in your career, I would love to hear more.
One of the things that I love to do is to collaborate, because I realize that I can help the people like in my circle, but then there's so many other people that need support that I'm able to reach them through collaboration. And so that's what I do. I just like pick up the phone and I call them and I say, hey, you're dope. I like what you're doing. Like, how can I support you? How can we work together? How can we get paid together? Because we're running businesses, not soup kitchens. And so let's figure out a way that we can monetize what we both do in a way that works well for both of us. So that's kind of how the conversation goes. And I try to nurture real relationships. Like sometimes I'll see that people may just they want to like, they see, okay, you're doing this and they want to collaborate, but you got to make it a win-win. You got to make sure that whatever you're doing, it makes sense for the person as well. So that's always in the back of my mind, is like, how can I make it a win for the person that I'm looking to collaborate with? And I like to lead with that. I like to be very clear about how I can make it a win for them. And I like to support the people that I work with. And so I'll share their stuff. They'll share my stuff. And then it just makes the collaboration that much more seamless, you know?
Yeah, it's so much power in collaborating and understanding that we can all eat. It's no
Yeah.
competition.
Oh, here.
What's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. And just coming together is what unity is all about. It's supposed to be we, not I, not me. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
we. I love that.
Scarcity, it's like all abundance. Like, and I remember when the pandemic first happened, I was like, should I keep my office? Like, I don't know, like I haven't been using my office for like months. And so ultimately I made a decision to close my physical office and just do exclusively virtual. And I was kind of nervous about it because I was like, I don't know how my clients are gonna respond to this, because they're used to like sitting on my couch and we do this thing and therapy, and that's how it goes. But surprisingly, like everybody was like, yeah, we still rocking with you. Like we wherever, like let's do it virtual, but we still want our appointment on Monday. And so I was like, all right, cool. And then it grew even more than I could have imagined it to grow, the practice, Atlanta couple therapy. But that's because I think people are starting to understand the value of mental health now. And so that's why I say it's no scarcity. It's all abundance. You know, everything you want wants you. You just got to seek it, believe that you can have it, and go after it. Go after your dreams. Believe that it's possible for your dreams to happen.
That belief within just hits different. And especially as being a speaker, how did you build your confidence up, especially with your credibility as well?
That's a great question. Well, my confidence isn't always high. You know, I have those days where I'm like, oh, my stomach is a little punched. Like, how? Where did that stomach come from? It was like little, and now it's like sitting in my lap. Like, when did this happen? But that's the sidebar. Okay. So when I first started speaking, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this person gonna want me to speak there? Like, are they gonna say no? And a lot of people said no. There are a lot of no's. Trust me, I ain't gonna lie. There are a lot of no's. It's like no, 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 no. But I was committed to getting to the yes. And so if I gotta go to 100 no's to get to the yes, let's go. Let's get these no's out of the way so I can get to my yes. And so that's how that went. It was like lots of no's. And then when I would speak, I would get nervous then too, because I was like, all right, now I got the gig. I need to show up and deliver. And I'll never forget, I was sharing a stage with this speaker, Les Brown. Have you heard of him, Les Brown? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is Les Brown. Like I'm just like a baby speaker at this point. I probably did like maybe 10 speaking engagements at that point. And so I was nervous and I had to like talk to myself. I was like, all right, girl, you got to go in here and you got to do this thing. And so one of the things that I like to keep in mind is it's about the audience. You know, it's not about me. It's about I'm coming to serve. I'm coming to help the people. And so when I keep that in check, then that kind of helps my feelings and the confidence issues like go to the side. Is I gotta deliver and I gotta make sure that the people who came to listen, they get served, they get helped, they get supported. That helps me keep the confidence issues in check.
That's amazing. That's amazing because first of all, congratulations. That is success in my eyes. Like everything that you're doing and so at all. And especially because I feel like we all go through like imposter syndrome. That's what they call it now. Have you ever went on stage and I remember Les Brown said it before, actually. Like he went on stage and nothing came out. He just went blank. How do you handle that?
You know, I took this class in Toastmasters. Have you heard of Toastmasters?
Yes.
I did Toastmasters, and then Toastmasters, they have you do this thing called table topics. And how table topics work is they'll just give you a topic and they'll say, hey, 60 seconds, go, here's your topic. And so the more I practiced, the better I got. Because at first I was like, wait, talk about what? And I would just get choked up. And so then they give you feedback and they say, okay, well, you had a lot of uhs or and so the more you do it, the more I practiced it, I got more and more comfortable with it. And so I think you just gotta push through. You gotta say, all right, the first time I go, it's not gonna be, may not be great, may not hit it out the park, but I'm showing up to bat again tomorrow and the next day and the next day until I get it.
Just keep showing up. That's the key to success. Just keep showing up. And I love how you stated before how you were handling rejection so well. So tell us about the key to negotiation and how do you seal the deal and get your worth out here?
Okay, girl, you got all the questions. You got some great questions, sis. Got some great questions. So, I think that you have to know what the budget is. Like sometimes it's helpful just to know where the money is and how much money is on the table. Because there were times when I didn't know what the numbers looked like. And so I undersold myself. And then I'll never forget, like I had this, it was this guy, he had asked me to speak to his organization. And I was like, okay, I can do it for $1,500. And then I was talking to a colleague of mine, a male colleague, and I was like, yeah, I spoke there. And he was like, yeah, I spoke there too. And they paid me $3,000. I was like, wait, what? $3,000? Are you serious? And so I was like, you know what? I just had to take it on the chin because that's the rate I gave him. So what am I going to say? But after that, it was different. It was different after that. I was like, all right, game on, let's do it. And so now I do research. I do a lot of research before I get on the phone with an organization. I do research on what are their needs. I do research on what kind of event is it? Is it a keynote event? How long am I going to be speaking? I do research a lot of research so that I know like on the front end, like what I should expect. And so then once we start talking numbers, it makes it that much easier. So when I know, okay, I'm going to be talking to 100 people and I'm going to be talking to a corporation. I know a corporation has a much higher budget than say a church would have because it's a nonprofit. So nonprofits, they got some money, but they're not writing $10,000 checks at the church. They may have a service offering that come around, but not the $10,000 check. And so I think once you know where the money is and you know like what they need, then it makes it much easier to negotiate because you can negotiate from a place of just knowing what's on the table.
You said research, and that's beautiful when you don't have to respond instantly when someone comes to you. You can take time and sit with it and think about it and calculate your steps accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want just to encourage people to just invest in learning these things because I have a whole course on negotiations. I have a whole course on how to like position yourself for speaking engagements and also an academy called the Couch to Podium Membership. And inside the Couch to Podium Membership, you get expert trainings on all of these areas, how to market, the things that I've learned in over 10 years of doing this on how to sell.
Wow, that is incredible. And if you can just sprinkle some media expertise in there for us.
Absolutely. So I have a course on this as well. I have a course just all about like booking media. So I'll tell you at a high level, some of the things that you want to do is you want to have some professional images because you want to look like what you're selling. Like if you just have selfies that you took in the bathroom and you're like sending it to CNN, they're going to be like, boo, what is this? Like, next. And so that's one thing is invest in good photos to make sure that your brand looks like it's media ready. The other thing is you gotta pitch. Like sometimes, like when I first got started, I would see other people on like huge media platforms. I'm like, how'd that happen? But they're pitching. And so that's what I've learned in over like the last 10 years of booking major media is it involves building relationships, reaching out to journalists, finding topics that are newsworthy, like right now what's big in the news in the relationship space is getting ready for Valentine's Day. Well, how do we date in a pandemic? And so those are some things that I would say just keep in mind to position yourself for media. Also, there's this great website. It's called Help a Reporter Out, Haro. So subscribe there. And all of the journalists are sending me like, hey, I need an expert psychologist that can talk about this topic. And so every week I'll respond to some of those queries.
It really is so much power in building relationships. I realized that relationship is going to put you in rooms that money could not. So it's so important to nurture relationships. How do you nurture your relationships?
So with my relationships, I'm very strategic. I'll make a list of, okay, during this quarter, these are the 10 journalists that I want to connect with. And then I'll connect with them on a different social media outlet like LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, like wherever they play, like for some people, they're really heavy. A lot of journalists are really heavy on Twitter. And so when you're sharing their stuff, when you're commenting on their posts, when you're DMing them, then they're like, okay, who's this person? I keep seeing her on my newsfeed. Let me see what she's about. And so that's me kind of slowly like just finding out about them and who they are and what they do and seeing what are the areas that there's synergy in. And so when I find that area of that thread of similarity or that area of synergy, then I just send them a message and say just like, hey, I like what you're doing in this article, or I feel like I could speak to this aspect of mental health in this way. Or I could support your audience in talking about how they can rebuild trust. And so I just kind of find like, what is that area that they're into and how does that align with also what I'm good at? Like, what's my expertise? So I'll send them a message and then we're just kind of building from there. Like we're building from there. And then when I send an email, I like to make it clear, like don't get super long-winded. Like, this is what I could talk about. These are the 3 segments. Which one do you want to do?
Get straight to the point. It's crazy. We got like short attention spans now. So you gotta have that elevator pitch like instantly.
That's right.
I love it. And I love how you figured out your expertise. For those that still are unsure about where they fit or their expertise, what type of advice or guidance can you give to that?
Oh, that's a good question. I felt like that early on. I felt like, oh my gosh, like I like this and I like this thing too, and like all of the things. And you can't really market that way. It's difficult to market like 7 things at one time. So I would say just pick a lane, pick one lane, double down on that lane, rock that lane out. And then after that is streamlined and you're known for that, then you can add another thing. But it's difficult to like market 7 things at the same time. So just pick one. And also it makes you proficient in that area. Like for me, relationships is my jam. I love talking about marriage and intimacy, all things relationships. And so when I'm putting together my marketing materials, like my video reel and my speaker one sheet, it makes it easier to put those materials together. Because then it's not like all over the place. It's just like, all right, this is the topic.
Come on, marriage. Marriage is amazing. Like, I feel like that is truly, especially men, they're going to have more successful with the wife by their side. Understand that.
For real, for real. What would you say are some of the challenges that you see that people are facing with speaking right now?
With speaking is just not having the confidence, understanding their lane. And of course, like with social media, the comparison aspect, feeling like who is gonna listen to me? Like, how can they build that and get out of their own head to realize that what you say matters? Your voice needs to be heard.
Yeah, I think that's so important is is feeling like, hey, what I have to offer, like that is enough. And I love what you said about the imposter syndrome, because that's real. Like I could teach all the strategies in the world, but if in deep inside, if my client doesn't feel like I'm worthy of this, then they'll sabotage. Like they'll know, okay, I need to pick up the phone and I need to sell. But once they get on the phone, they'll say like, oh, well, could you do, or is it possible? Or, it's okay if you don't pay me. Like it'll just be self-sabotage all over the place in the conversation if inside I don't feel worthy of the opportunity.
And that's what we have to understand. We came here, we are breathing, we are more than qualified and worthy. Dr. Louis, you are truly amazing. Can you tell us what you have coming up?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm really excited about the Better Together Summit. So this is a summit that I put together every year. It's completely free. And it's really designed to support relationships. So for those of you who are single or are dating or married, we have something for each and every one of you. For the singles, we have seminars on how you can get purposeful in your dating. For the people who are in a relationship, we have topics on intimacy, on communication, how we can stop having the same fight over and over and over again. So I'll send you the link or post it inside the chat. But yeah, I'm super excited about that, and it starts on next week.
Oh yes. So about how to purposely date nowadays. Tell us about that. How do you date purposely?
I think one of the things that Jill Bullock, that's her topic. That's what she's speaking on, is how to date purposely. And I think one of the things is just to be clear about what you want. Sometimes we don't even know what we want. So we date and we like, oh, he cute. But what does his credit score look like? How he manages bills? Like, is this person like serious about being in a relationship, or are they like with Sally and Susie and everybody else? And so I think just be clear about what you want. If you want a relationship, make sure you let that be known of like, I'm not trying to just be your girlfriend for 17 years. Like that's not what I'm here for. Where do you see this going? Like have those conversations.
Come on, 17 years. She a good one. She's a good one. I'm noticing more than ever, this era is so focused on like preferences and not character. And looking at the appearance of how much money can this person make, but not understanding the character.
I think that's such a good point, because that's what's going to be lasting is your character. Like when I get sick, can I depend on you to show up for me? Like when I lose my job, are you going to be in the win, or are we going to be able to work this thing out and put our pennies together and figure this thing out? That's what you want. Somebody of integrity, someone who does what they say that they're going to do, someone who is dependable and consistent. And so I think you're 100% spot on there. It's about the character. It's about your values.
Yes, that's the longevity. How you said, if I'm sick and you trying to just give me money, I can't even spend the money.
Right? Can you get me some soup? Can I get some cough syrup up in here? Like,
right, $1 bill ain't gonna cure me. Wow, that is amazing. And where can we keep up with you and find your academy as well?
If you go to academy.com, that's for the couples, and then you can connect with me on the speaker side inside the Paid to Speak Facebook group.
Awesome. Dr. Louis, you're incredible. This conversation was so fulfilling as well. I just want to thank you so much for your time. Hey, you got to enjoy your trip out here.
Well, thank you for having me. I just love this platform that you have created to have conversations like that, like the one that we've had and all of the other guests that you've had. So thank you so much for having me today.
Please come back and just leave us off with some helpful tips and strategies we can maneuver in 2021 so we can have our mindset abundantly?
So for 2021, I want to just encourage you to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Just a few years ago, I had major surgery and I had a fibroid, and it had gotten a fibroid is a benign tumor. And so the doctor said, we got to get this out of you. This is like the size of a grapefruit. And so they said, okay, well, it's not going to be that extensive, this surgery. We just need to just do an outpatient surgery. We'll be done in an hour and we'll get you out. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. And so the surgery ended up being more involved than what the doctor had originally expected. The fibroid was a bit larger than he expected. And so I ended up being in the hospital for a week. I couldn't shower, I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. Like I needed like real help. So my husband was there and then my mom was there, and I just adore my mom. She's a therapist. I just adore her. So she ended up getting me this plant. And when I see the plant, I think of my mom. And so a little while after that, I started to notice that the plant was dying. And I was like, oh my God, my plant is dying. And I realized that I hadn't been watering it. And I think our lives are this way. Like we have to make sure that we are watering ourselves. And we water ourselves by staying connected to our support system, by staying encouraged, by listening to music, by making sure that we tap into therapy. And so these are some of the ways that we water our lives. And so that's what I would leave to the people, to your audience, is stay encouraged and continue to replenish yourself.
Come on, storyteller. Like I visualized the plant. I visualized mama, I visualized the husband. Like that is, you are so talented and gifted. Thank you, Dr. Louis, so much.
Thank you.
And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in, tapping in, and we will meet you at the top.